What is up, ghouls, gals, creeps, and mutants alike? The Undead Matt here, of course, and today we are joined by the lovely, amazing, talented, and really just very funny Lala and Gigi with a new half-hour power episode. So, the half-hour power is an exclusive show that is exclusively only available on our Patreon, but with everything happening, we wanted to come out with this episode because Lala and Gigi also touched on the subject of H.P. Lovecraft. So, if you don't know what the half-hour power is, just to give you kind of an idea of it real quick, the half-hour power is hosted and ran by our amazing Lala and Gigi, who come on and give a different perspective of the topics that we talk about on our Monday episodes. Sometimes they agree with us and sometimes they don't, but that's why we love having them come on and host, because it's great to get another perspective on what we talk about. So today we are going to jump into the episode where they take on H.P. Lovecraft as well. So we did a biopic of the man himself. It was a two-parter. They were both Monday episodes. If you haven't checked them out yet, please go in our catalog and you'll be able to see them right there. With that in mind, though, Lala and Gigi are now here to share their perspectives and their knowledge as well. And honestly, this is a very exciting episode. And if you enjoy what you hear, please consider going to our Patreon and becoming a supporter. And just for $2 a month, that's right, for only $2, you actually will get exclusive rights to this content. That's right, all half-hour power episodes will be available for you to download and listen. So this one is going to be obviously free for everyone to listen to today, but if you like what you hear, please consider going over to Patreon. And again, huge shout out to our amazing hosts Lala and Gigi. With that being said, let's jump into it.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast Half-Hour Power.
I didn't realize we were starting.
You're already laughing.
I was like, why is she talking like that? We're starting.
I am your host, Lala, with the ever wonderful, amazing, already laughing Gwenny.
Thank you.
And we're glad you're back.
I'm glad to be back. It feels like it's been a long time.
It does sort of feel that way. Everything sort of feels like... I feel like we're in the upside down because
like
things
nothing
are just...
is real?
Yeah, everything is just not the way it should be anymore. And it's so bizarre.
Events are so altered, and I have just seen such raw humanity and just how unusual people can be.
Yeah. No. Welcome to the Upside Down. Welcome back to the Punk Rock Horror Podcast Half-Hour in the Upside Down Power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this past 2 weeks I've been like, people, man.
Yeah, people are crazy. It's getting to be hectic out there. Y'all need to be safe.
Someone hit me I was pushing a cart across the street, and they hit my cart with their car while I was pushing it.
Hey.
I was like, oh man.
That's great.
Everything fell off my cart. It felt like that scene of Avatar where they kept blowing up his cabbages.
Oh.
Do you remember that? He was in the Earth Kingdom, and he would set up his cabbage thing, and then they'd knock it over.
Which, how rad. Maybe we should talk about that as I've got some other good things, but as a definite
that is the
one.
best thing.
Avatar, The Last Airbender, finally back on Netflix.
Yeah.
Happy days. I think all four of us, you, me, Benny, and Connor, have already started binging it.
Oh, I think we're on our second binge.
Oh, you guys are? Wow, you're a lot faster than I am. I'm not quite there yet.
It's just every time anyone's home, it's just on the TV, and it's just cycling through episodes.
It's a constant loop. It's a constant Avatar loop in the Upside Down.
It's such a good show. So that's my good.
So in the Upside Down, Avatar The Last Airbender, always on.
What's your good?
Well, my good is that we kind of went... Well, my really good is that I decided to buy a motorcycle.
That is really good.
Yeah, I've wanted one forever, and I got tired of people telling me no throughout my life, and now that I am single, as it were, I am going to do what I want whenever I want.
Heck yeah.
Because that's the beauty of being single, so I bought a motorcycle before even knowing how to ride it.
That's alright.
Yeah, no, it's really cool.
When you buy a car before you have your license so you can learn how to drive in your car.
You mean exactly what both you and your brother did?
No, I learned how to drive in someone else's car, but I didn't have my license.
Well, basically, but still, I mean, you guys both basically got cars to learn to drive. So I did the same thing, and I'm so excited. I'm going to take a class.
It's so cool.
And I'm going to be able to ride. I'll be able to ride to all the horror events if we ever get to have them again. Look, people, if y'all jack up Halloween,
I wouldn't be so mad.
I'm going to line everybody up and just start handing out putazos. Bam, bam, just down the line, because I will have had enough of crazy people just ruining all the good stuff for us.
Yeah, I saw a woman post on Facebook who, she lives outside of the city, and she was like, I just came into the city to drop off my kids, and I was sickened by all these sheeple herding around, and I won't have my autonomy taken away from me. And I was like, oh man, wearing a mask is really affecting this woman intensely. Like,
look, I gotta be honest. Do I like it? No. Do I feel like it's a coat and every time I get in somewhere I want to take it off and then I'm like, no, you can't take it off. Yeah. It's not a coat. No, it's not my favorite thing in the whole world. But at the end of the day, sunscreen's not my favorite thing in the whole world. But yet I wear it. And, seatbelts. You guys yell at me all the time and remind me to put it on. It's not my favorite, but do I do it? Yeah. Like, come on.
Well, and like I was talking to some of my coworkers and then a friend of mine. And people, like, when we ask them to put on masks, get really terrible. And like someone cussed out a lady today because she asked her to put on a mask, and it's like, you have to wear it for 10 minutes. Like, I have to wear it 11 hours a day. Like, you can really let it go.
Yeah, it's getting ridiculous out there. Like, just put them on. Do I wear it at the skate park? No. Do I stand anywhere near people? No.
Like, wear it to the grocery store.
Yeah.
Like, inside 7-Eleven where there's other people.
Yeah, I mean, let's protect our elderly and immunocompromised. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, let's help people out that need it,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was kind of a bummer. Never have I wanted a test to come back positive so bad as when I did my COVID test. Because we did the serology test, the IgG, to see if we had the antibodies. And like for 3 days, I was like, please be positive, please be positive.
So
it came back negative. I was so bummed.
I know what that means, but break it down because nobody else does.
Oh. So essentially, like if it had come back positive, it would have meant that I had it at some point and or was a carrier, and that I wasn't going to get sick because I had the antibodies already built up in my immune system. So here's to wishing I had already had it. But no. And that was really weird because, a lot of people, and myself included, and I'm in the healthcare profession, was like, well, I was really sick in February, so I'm pretty sure I already had it. Mm-hmm. And so to have that test come back and find out that I wasn't was kind of a bummer.
I don't know. This whole thing is like, just as a nerd, but as someone who's very young, like one day people are going to look back at this and be like, well, in the dark ages they all had COVID. Like the way we look at the plague,
Yeah, it's really weird. Like, I don't know. It's just such a bizarre time. And I mean, look at your graduation. We're doing your graduation at a drive-in. How weird.
That's my good, though, for this week. I graduated high school.
Yay!
I'm done.
Huzzah! Our little graduate off to college.
Yeah, so I finished high school.
Yeah, so like NPR was doing a thing on the radio today of talking about, people who have worked so hard to get to the point where they are now where they can graduate, just to have it completely be sandbagged by COVID is just so sad.
So devastating for me.
I can imagine.
Like, I helped out with my school's graduation last year, and when it was going to be the same, and like, I was like so excited telling my brother, I was like, we're going to do this and this and this, and it's like, I don't know.
Super depressing. No, I agree. I definitely think that's... So our good and our bad sort of seem to have ran together.
Yeah.
I mean, I think my bad is still sort of people-related. But, people shouldn't hurt other people the way they do. And that's my bad. Like, I'm tired of living with the hurt that is caused by other people. And, it's not just me. I think a lot of people are going through it. I think quarantine has been really crazy. Like, I know a couple of people that just couldn't deal anymore and, committed suicide, and it was awful. Like, we just don't know how bad each other's hurting. And the thing that I think is so crazy is, like, at what point... Like, I remember you weren't born, but when 9/11 happened, like, everybody got together and we were like, yeah, go blow them guys up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as a country, we, like, got united. And now, like, and that was even under crappy leadership, but now we're really, people are all over the place on how they feel about the leadership. And I think it's pretty obvious how we feel about the leadership. But it's just not strong regardless of what you feel, and people are divided, and a time when we should all be in this together, like, it's very divisive.
What? You just went on like a really long, really profound tangent.
Sorry. I just thought, I don't know, I was talking about it with somebody today, and I was like, I can't believe we can get together for a war, but we can't get together to help mankind. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
No. Well, I'm an adamant environmentalist, so I'm very aware of that fact.
Yeah, and we've always have discussed how I'm nothing more than a hippie in studs anyway, so...
Yeah.
You know, the hippie in me is like, come on, man, take care of your own kind, take care of your human, you know, love one another, take care of one another. So the meat of it today is H.P. Lovecraft. We're following up with what Matt and Cody were talking about.
Yeah.
So many weird things that I totally didn't know until their podcast. For example, the thing that I think I was the most blown away by was I did not know that he was so racist.
I, didn't know. I wasn't like, whoa. I wasn't aware, but I'm also not surprised. Does that make sense? I hate to say that, but I feel like just at the time period in which he wrote, every white man who had a little bit of money was very racist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I suppose that's true. And I'm not making an excuse. I think one of the things that happens all the time is, you know, people make excuses and say, well, back then times were different. You know, and I think that is true, which is why progress is such an amazing thing.
Yeah.
But again, this goes back to what I was saying. It's humankind, man. That's awful.
I think the most thing I found most interesting, which I no longer find interesting after pictures of him, but that he was inbred, potentially?
Yeah, so that was funny. When we were discussing things leading up to the actual podcast and what we wanted to talk about, I had kind of said to you, I was like, yeah, so Matt and Cody said there was a potential for him to be the product of incest. And you said, duh, and pulled up a picture of him, and I gotta tell you.
No, this man's as ugly as hell.
Yeah.
Which, he was a racist, so I can say that. I can be mean to him.
Yeah, he's definitely not a pretty specimen.
But all of that aside, I feel like his writing was important. And then, obviously, we speak about horror movies here. I looked up a list of horror movies based off of H.P. Lovecraft books, and there's about 1,000 of them. I've hardly heard of any of them, and they all look terrible.
Yeah, so I'm sort of in the Cthulhu boat. That's pretty much what I know. And I know the Die Monster Die.
Oh, Reanimator, is that him?
Yeah, so I thought Reanimator was a Roger Corman from Trauma Films sort of thing. But was it actually based on a Lovecraft story?
That's what this says.
Crazy. But I did not know that. And I gotta tell you, Trauma Films, you either love them or you don't. They're pretty
that's
cheesy.
Like that with every horror film.
True.
But especially whatever, the Trauma film, Rob Zombie, the very niche horror films, you're either all in or all out. You love Rob Zombie films, and you love Rob Zombie films. I hate them. I think they're terrible.
Really?
Rob Zombie movies are awful. It's loud noises, yelling, titties, blood. There you go.
Titties and blood. Who can beat titties and blood, really? You know?
Rob Zombie.
So interestingly enough, do you know that him and his wife are devout vegans?
I did, yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
Well, I just thought that was an interesting tidbit.
No, there's
has no problem killing people in movies, albeit it's make-believe, but don't you dare touch an animal, which is fine because we're vegetarians ourselves.
There's a lot of really interesting people that are vegans, which I mean, not to go on this rant, but just because I find it intriguing. The world's for a period of time, the man who was the world's strongest man was vegan.
Really?
Yeah.
I've always sort of thought that building bulk muscle is hard to do without animal proteins.
No, and he's a beefy man. Wow. Well, obviously, he was the world's strongest. He could lift 1,000 pounds and walk 10 feet with it. That's real horror right there.
Wow.
That amount of muscles, terrifying.
So I actually never read Cthulhu, but sort of read Cthulhu. I did the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
And I really liked it a lot.
I think audiobooks are really changing the way that people get stories.
Yeah. No, I mean, it made it very accessible. And I would listen to it at lunch every day, and I enjoyed it. And, before I went on a tangent, of course, we were getting to the part about how his writing style was, like, way before his time.
Oh, yeah. There was, like, horror writers at the time, but they were writing, I feel like that was more, like, they would talk about, like, the scary parts of human nature. Mm-hmm. Like, Edgar Allan Poe, like, his stuff, like, when you actually look into it, it's, like, very spooky, but it's, like, the spooky parts of human nature, and I think even, like Dracula, Frankenstein, like, whatever, like, all of the main characters are human or humanoid, you know? And I feel like this was very, like, Cthulhu is so, it's, what, big octopus dude? Like, it's so far off from what the horror was at the time.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool.
Yeah, definitely. No, and then, and they were talking about how his dad was taken away when he was little, and it was super traumatic for him, and his dad ended up dying in a not a mental asylum, but
like an institution.
Yeah, a mental institution. Yeah, so it stands to reason he had such a crazy imagination, but one of the things that I wanted to sort of talk about that I thought that Matt and Cody were discussing that was very interesting was, they were talking about how people sometimes view, like, horror movies as, like, oh, well, they must be sort of crazy or a little off anyway. But ultimately, for a lot of people, and I think sort of us included now, it's a good place to go and sort of hide from reality almost. Like, it's a form of escapism.
Oh, I was totally gonna get to that. It's totally a form of escapism.
Mm-hmm. It's almost kind of like the world is really, really bad, so I'm going to escape into a worse world almost. I don't know. Like, I can't explain it, but it's definitely very much a way to escape and to sort of feel, I don't know, I think in some ways to almost like regain control and make more sense of things via losing control.
Well, and I think part of it is too is like a lot of horror films are so far apart from actual reality, especially like, I don't know, I feel like this period of horror just ended and like we're dawning on a whole different, because I feel like Ari Aster, Jordan Peele, like all of those guys are like delving into a totally new era of horror, but I'd say like the 2000s horror was very like scary demons in the woods, and it's like that felt so unreal but also so like real that it was just like it made you feel so different,
Yeah. No, and I think everybody has what they would prefer to lose themselves in. Some people enjoy sci-fi, and some people enjoy fairy tales, and whatever it is that you escape to works, and I think for so many people, and I just because I'm gonna go to this really quick.
Okay.
So the thing that they were talking about too that I found was awesome was that his parents used to read him horror stories as a kid.
H.P. Lovecraft?
Yes.
Oh.
Which I used to do to you guys.
You did.
And I feel like that, yes, it made you guys a little bit sort of
weird,
dark and weird, and especially dark and weird to your,
the Karens and Susans at the Catholic school?
Yes. Yes, that was, yes. I was going to say colleagues, but I guess they weren't really your colleagues.
Oh.
But regardless, like,
the parents of the kids I hung out with.
You guys went to a very homogenized school, and it was a private school, and it was a faith-based private school, which, like you said, left a lot of Karens and Susans and Kyles. And I'm over here reading stuff, like the Macumber McGee books, and I read Alice in Wonderland to you guys, and not that Alice in Wonderland is scary, but Alice in Wonderland, the actual book and not the movie, the original book, is very sort of alternative childhood reading, I think.
Oh, and I remember like at one point telling a girl, like we were talking about like movies I liked, and she's like, I'm not allowed to watch Coraline because it's too scary, and I was like, you're really scared of that? Like that movie's so good.
Yeah, no, and I think, I don't know, like, all kinds of different stuff makes the world go round, and I think raising you guys sort of super gothy,
Weird.
cutting your teeth on, scary stories and that kind of stuff. What was the one that we read? The Cinderella skeleton,
Yeah.
something like that? That was good. The fairy books where they got smashed.
Yeah.
We had tons of different things that we read that... what was the one? Instead of Goodnight Moon, it was called Goodnight Goon.
Yeah.
And it was a scary version of Goodnight Moon.
We have a lot of different ones.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I thought that was kind of interesting. And, I think that was very much part of what made him who he was. And again, like, getting those stories read to him as a kid was comforting to him, which is probably why he was able to continue to write such crazy stories. So what were you Googling there, sister?
Guillermo del Toro.
Oh, our man.
Horror legend.
Legend.
Was the executive producer of the third Kung Fu Panda.
Uh-huh.
And the creative consultant of Megamind.
Okay. What does that have to do with H.P. Lovecraft?
No, it just has to do with horror.
Oh my god. It wasn't even a segue. You just completely decided to shift gears and change on us.
It's so funny.
Yes, very funny. Not Lovecraft related.
He's such a creative man. And he does so many beautiful things. And he was the creative consultant of Megamind.
Yeah.
Movies.
Do you know he learned to speak English from comic books?
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I know a guy from either Vietnam or China. I don't remember. But he learned English, like, in school.
Mm-hmm.
So he spoke, like, perfect English. And he learned how to speak real English from music videos.
Oh.
And he'd sit in the basement of the art museum, and when he'd think no one was around, he'd watch these music videos, and he'd be, like, jamming out to Shakira, like, learning how to speak real English. Like, it was adorable.
Very adorable. Yeah, so, sorry, folks. Weird tangent we decided to go down.
If anyone wanted to know.
So, I'm sort of disappointed, because I think, we're known for, like, 5 very specific things. And he has a book called Necronomicon, Book of the Dead, and at no point did either of us make any sort of reference.
I've just been looking through this list of movies based off of his books, and they all look like they had a $53 budget.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the other things I was going to talk about. So I tried, in preparation for this, I tried to watch, there's a series on Prime now that is based on H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a $53 budget. It was like a 53-cent budget.
Yeah.
I watched approximately 5 minutes and 32 seconds before I was like, I don't even care if I don't do research for this podcast. This is terrible.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
Castle Freak was based off something of his?
Which I love that movie. You need to find what it was based off of. Because if you haven't seen Castle Freak, folks, you're not a horror fan.
I thought you were saying that to me. I was like, I've seen Castle Freak. I watched it with you.
Yes, no, Castle Freak. So we used to have a room called Castle Freak's room because it was a super dank room, like the one that they kept the Castle Freak in.
It was a super dank room.
So how does Castle Freak tie into Lovecraft? Does it say?
It said... Hold on, give me a second. Make, noise.
Who is Castle Freak and Argento?
Stuart Gordon.
Oh, Stuart Gordon. I don't know why I thought it was an Argento.
Saying that name is like punching someone in the face with your...
Dario Argento or Stuart Gordon?
Stuart Gordon. No, but it's on the list of movies that were based off of one of his books.
Well, yeah, I would, if somebody knows, which I'm assuming will be Matt because he always texts me later and says, this is how that ties in. I really want to know how Castle Freak ties into H.P. Lovecraft. And my advice to everyone listening, if you have not seen Castle Freak, watch it. It's super scary.
In your next dark, dank room.
Mm-hmm. Call it the Castle Freak room. I was in my late 20s, early 30s, still sort of afraid of that room after watching that movie that we used to call Castle Freak's room. And I specifically remember being a grown-ass adult with 2 children living in my house that I own, hauling ass up the stairs going, I don't like being in Castle Freak's room by myself.
No, the basement's creepy. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes there'll just be like a draft coming out of the concrete wall. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, a ghost is breathing on me.
No, it's a good one. So, anyways, that's our take on Lovecraft. And we don't like that he was a racist.
No.
Like the others.
We don't like racism here.
We don't. We can overlook some of the other oddities of him, but racism?
No.
No.
Go away, racist.
Get out of here.
Oh, man.
No, that really is kind of crap. I sort of wish I wouldn't have found that out in a way because I do like the stories and now it kind of makes me bummed out to think about it. But,
Again,
anyway.
white man, little bit of money, living in the late 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Chances are he did not like people of color.
Right. So, it is that time of day where we read, our time of podcast, I guess?
Yeah.
Where we read a story? Is that what you call it?
Sure.
So, today's story is once again credited to not a person, which drives me nuts. I get it. They have pen names on there, and that's great, and I'm happy for you. But I hate when I have to credit stories to Lord Rex.
That's a cool name. That's actually their Christian name.
It's on the birth certificate.
Yeah.
So anyways, tonight's story, Last Will, written by Lord Rex. This is my last will. I'm recording this now. I don't have much time left. Well, not so much of a will, really. Everyone I know is dead, missing of seconds away from death. I don't know how it went so wrong. It was supposed to be something that would grant me eternal wealth, riches, and longevity. Something that I heard was supposed to be how Caesar rose to power. Me being the idealistic man that I am, I decided to try it. The information was scattered far and wide. On top of Mount Everest, inside the 501 paving stone of the Great Wall, everything fit precisely and beautiful. This is how it works. Go into the slums of your city and wait for midnight to strike. You must bring along 3 items. A coin that was made in the year of your birth, an object that holds music, like a CD, tape, or MP3 player, and the left eye from a 2-week-old puppy. Stand on any street and wait exactly 5 minutes. If you did it correctly, there will be a sound of a single football behind you. You must then place the items on the ground, say your name aloud, and then walk straight ahead for 5 minutes. Not sure what you'd do if there's a wall or a bend in front of you, follow the curve of the road or go around the obstacle maybe? Anyway, there's no time to muse over the small details. If you followed those steps to the exact letter, you'll get a great power and life and all of that in a couple of days. After that, you were set for the rest of your life. If you didn't, well, that's where I am now. Wait, did you hear that? That sort of squishing sound, like wet? I don't know. The mic on here probably isn't powerful enough to pick up sounds. After I didn't get my wealth and power, I did some research on this particular ritual. It's not some crappy internet meme like a candle jack or the strange creepypastas on old rituals. It's powerful stuff, old black magic. Old, as in really old. If what I have read is correct, this stuff is considered old when Rome was the only world superpower. Some of the reports have crude drawings of the thing that appears behind you. H.P. Lovecraft has nothing on those images. I have also read reports on what happens to those like me, the ones who fuck up. Man, those are the worst nightmare fuel. Reports of people being found torn in half, their internal organs sucked out of their eye sockets, and the reports of people who are found alive. Their seemingly insane babblings and yells of unspeakable things. Of course, they speak them, rendering the whole unspeakable aspect of a moot point. I don't want all those to happen to me. That's why I bought an old-style revolver. It is loaded with silver bullets coated with salt. The way I make it, if 5 bullets don't kill whatever it is, the last one will go into my brain. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I guess I didn't follow everything to the letter because I got no power. After the research left me a quivering heap in my apartment, I began to slowly accept my fate. All of my affairs are in order, and my family, shit man, strangely, all of them died a few days ago. I mean, I was on the phone with my father just talking about life and where I was going when his screams and gurgles. It sounded wet, really wet. I kept listening, trying to hear the killer. 5 minutes later, I got nothing. When I went over to his place to see for myself, police were all over the place, questioned me for a bit, and then got me to ID the body, or at least what was left of it. Christ, my old man didn't deserve to die that way. All of this death for a stupid wish. All of my friends, dead or dying. I just came from the hospital, pulled the plug on my ex. Literally, she was pretty torn up. Again, literally. I'm preparing myself now. I'm going to place this recorder inside the dumpster and leave the lid propped up. Hopefully whatever it is will make some sort of noise. Anyways, I won't say my name here. You'd probably Google it to the high heavens anyway. Okay, goodbye to everyone who is listening. Save yourself. Full recording of a tape found in an empty street. The only sign of the individual, John Doe, was rather large pool of blood near the far wall. Further investigation found said revolver unfired. The last 5 minutes of the tape transcribed below. JD, you son of a bitch, I'm here. I did everything you didn't deliver. What the fuck is wrong with you? What the hell are you anyway? Silence. JD, what? That doesn't make a lick of sense. You can't be serious. Step out of the shadows. I want to see who I'm dealing with. A single footfall is heard. JD, oh Christ. Silence. Then a scream that trails off into wet, gurgling, crunchy sound heard for the remainder of the tape. Forensics have found tracks leading away from the pool of blood. The tracks do not match any known human or animal on record. The end.
It was weird. I was all over the place. It wasn't terrible.
No, it wasn't terrible.
The writing was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the storyline was there, but the writing was really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, for, a 4-minute long creepypasta, it was really good.
Yeah.
And I would like to think that maybe Lord Rex maybe fleshed out a couple things a little bit more.
Yeah.
But I did think it was good.
Character development, man.
Yeah, and of course, we read it because it had H.P. Lovecraft in it.
Yeah.
Tying all that stuff in, man. Tying it in. So, anyways, be safe and kind to one another, and we appreciate, as always, everybody listening. Thank you so much for listening to our Patreon. We couldn't do this without listeners, and we couldn't do this without the listeners that subscribe to our Patreon. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in a couple of...
Be safe, be kind, but most importantly, be scary.
Ooh,
we'll see you next
look
week.
What she did. You like what she did? Thanks.